Hi everyone, today I'm going to do a bit of coloring in this Colouring Frieze. It's a coloring book that unfolds into one long connected sheet, and I've been really excited to try it. I absolutely love Leila's work, so this was sent to me as a gift. I also received 2 more coloring books, which I'll quickly show you because they're really special. This is actually my first time holding a coloring book like this, but the concept feels really familiar to me because I've worked with a lot of sketchbooks in a similar format before. I really enjoy them. There aren't many pages, but when you unfold them and display them, they look so beautiful on a shelf. I even once made a sketchbook in a similar style and later ended up selling it, which was really lovely because these kinds of books feel almost decorative once they're finished. And since you can complete them quite quickly, I've become a big fan of this type of format. There's also a lovely Arabian Nights book here, where each fold has its own illustration, and behind each one there's a short story connected to the artwork. It's such a beautiful idea for a book. And the third one is something completely new for me, a paint by numbers coloring book. I actually have a separate plan for that, so I'll be making a dedicated video for it, but it's themed around Japanese springtime with really beautiful illustrations that I'll try to interpret in my own way. So let's start with this gorgeous book and these flowing floral illustrations. The paper feels really nice and sturdy, and I think it will work well with pretty much any medium you choose. On the back, it even lists the flowers featured, which is actually super helpful and something I really appreciate. As soon as I opened it, I knew I wanted to work with mixed media. The illustrations are quite detailed, but I love combining different techniques. So today I'll show you how I usually approach that, how I mix and layer mediums to color one page in a way that feels the most satisfying and natural for me. I should mention that this video won't be a classic tutorial like the ones I usually make here. Today I'll mostly be experimenting with different techniques because this illustration is quite small and detailed, so I'll have to figure out the best way for me to color each individual element. I honestly don't have the patience to work only with pencils anymore since I completely switched over to brushes, and painting is definitely what I enjoy the most now. So since the paper feels really nice and sturdy, I had to try watercolors first, although because they're transparent, I already knew I wouldn't be able to use only them, since I usually like to cover most of the black lines and make the final result look as painterly as possible. Here I'm using these lovely Arrtx Watercolors that I use quite often, and they're really cute and convenient for tutorials like this. If you're a beginner and enjoy using watercolors in books, I'd definitely recommend checking them out. For the colors, I'm planning to use soft pinks combined with moody greens and purples. I actually think I might shift the combinations a little as I go, so there probably won't be just one color palette throughout the entire frieze. I'd like the colors to blend gently into each other, so we'll see how it turns out in the end. As I mentioned before, I'll be trying to cover most of the black outlines, so here I'm using Arrtx acrylic markers. I mainly use this type of marker for covering individual lines because they're very easy to work with, they dry quickly, and they come in a really lovely range of soft pastel colors that help neutralize the outlines beautifully. They're nicely opaque, although you still have to go over the lines a few times if you want them to disappear completely. In this illustration, the leaves and petals have a lot of black details inside each shape, so even this technique becomes a little tiring for my personal taste after a while. I probably could have started with gouache right away since it's an opaque medium that can create a really beautiful painterly effect, but I prefer combining techniques like this and showing a few different approaches depending on the type of illustration. Also, these leaves and petals are very small and detailed, so sometimes it's simply easier to have the right color ready in your hand instead of constantly mixing paint and waiting for layers to dry. Because of that, I naturally skipped gouache here since I felt it would take much more time. As the paper is quite thick, you can see that absolutely nothing shows through to the other side, which makes it fantastic for experimenting with different mixed media techniques. Since I didn't really like how visible the black lines still were, and going over every single line started to feel a little tiring, I knew I would have to build up the color in a different way. I also have to admit that this flower is actually quite challenging for a first page. The other flowers in the book are smaller, and although there are a few flowers this size throughout the frieze, they usually don't have this many detailed black lines inside them. In a way, that's good because it lets me show you right away how I like to cover the outlines, but at the same time, it also means I have to find an efficient method that feels natural and enjoyable for me. I personally love bold and painterly colors, and sometimes that means experimenting a little. So here, I decided to test whether I could mix watercolors with white gesso. It creates softer pastel tones and at the same time allows me to go over the black lines a little more opaquely and soften them visually. With this technique, I can build up a large number of layers and really push the color intensity to its maximum. Unlike gouache, gesso is waterproof once it dries, which means I can keep adding more layers on top without reactivating what's underneath. It also creates a nice slightly textured surface with a bit of tooth, which helps the next layers of paint and pencil grip the surface better. At this point, I was already considering just taking out my gouache and repainting all the petals completely, but I still wasn't ready to give up, and I wanted to show you a few more techniques that can work really nicely in coloring books. I think these little tricks can actually be useful, especially if you don't own a gouache set. In that case, even a little white acrylic paint or white gesso can help. You can simply mix your own pastel shades and use them to soften and cover the outlines. In the end, I added a few quick layers with watercolors again, mostly just to understand how I wanted the colors to flow together. It's one of those quick methods where I almost sketch the colors in advance so I can visualize the final mood more easily. And now I finally had to switch to something more opaque because I could feel myself slowly losing patience. If I spend too long working on one tiny element, my interest naturally starts to fade a little, which is one of the reasons I enjoy painting more freely and moving around the page instead of focusing on only one section for too long. So I knew I needed a technique that would make the process easier and faster for me, and in the end I reached for my favorite acrylic markers, the Karin markers. The reason I love them so much is because the colors are immediately ready to use and they blend beautifully into each other without creating harsh transition lines. I like my artwork to feel bold and colorful, but still soft and gentle at the same time, especially when it comes to blending. That's why these are some of my favorite markers to work with. They cover really well and make the whole process much easier for me. Of course, if you don't have acrylic markers like these, you can absolutely use gouache, acrylic paint, or whatever markers you already own. And if you end up with visible blending lines, you can simply take a damp brush and gently soften the edges while the marker is still wet. It creates a much dreamier, softer effect in the final artwork. And now we're slowly entering that slightly awkward phase that often happens when you combine a lot of different techniques. That's normal, and for me, this stage is mostly about building up color until I get those rich and opaque tones that I personally love. At this point, I really needed some shading to bring more depth into the flower, and create those moody and dramatic colors that I enjoy. I also wanted the petals to feel a little more three-dimensional. So in the corners and deeper folds of each petal, I'll be adding darker burgundy and muted purple tones, while the tips of the petals will stay softer and lighter. That contrast helps visually lift each petal forward, almost as if the flower is emerging from the darker shadows underneath. You can see that colored pencils actually work very nicely on top of the acrylic markers I used here. Of course, sometimes pencils won't glide smoothly over certain surfaces, and that really depends on both the type of pencils and the markers you're using together. That's why it's always a good idea to test combinations beforehand. Here I usually start with the darkest pencil near the base of the petal, then soften the middle area using a mid-tone shade, and finally use the lightest pencil to blend the tip of the petal and smooth everything together. I almost always blend using a lighter shade of the same color rather than white. I only rarely use a white pencil because it can sometimes dull the color slightly and create a more pastel effect. So if you want your colors to stay vibrant, blending with a lighter version of the same shade usually works much better. Now I'm going to show you a technique I often use in mixed media, and that's adding a light glaze over the darker areas. I do this with slightly diluted watercolors, and then I go over the darker parts in as few brush strokes as possible. If you've already layered pencils underneath, the watercolor will often resist those areas, but instead of fully covering everything, it kind of connects the surface in a really soft way. It slightly tones down the pencil lines and blends the transitions between areas where the pigment sits differently, which creates a more even and I would say more dreamy and muted effect in the shadows. I really like that look. Of course, if you go in with too many brush strokes, it can start to look messy and the layers underneath can lift or get disturbed, so I usually keep this very light and controlled and only apply it in selected areas. Also, if the paint separates or doesn't sit evenly on top of the pencil, that's completely normal. You can simply dab it gently with a cloth and go over it again if needed. It's not a technique I see used very often, simply because watercolors can behave unpredictably on certain surfaces, but I actually use it quite a lot, and I've noticed it can create a really soft look that I personally love. If your coloring book has a nice and thicker paper, it can be really interesting to experiment with this technique and see how it reacts. It's definitely one of those try and see methods, but I find it very fun to play with. Let's move on to the leaves. As you can see here, they're quite thin and detailed, and there are a lot of them intertwined throughout the composition. Even though I already added a bit of watercolor in some areas, I think the best approach here is to simply grab a few pencils in both cooler and warmer green tones and quickly color them in. Just like with the petals, I place the darkest greens in the deepest and most shadowed areas and keep the lighter tones for the leaves that sit on top. It also helps a lot to separate the color temperature. I use cooler greens for the lower layers of leaves and warmer greens for the ones that are sitting above. This naturally creates a nice sense of depth and gives a subtle 3D effect, making the warmer tones visually pop forward. For the center of the second flower, I think the best approach is to create texture using opaque paint. In this case, I'm using acrylic markers. I'm alternating the colors and dotting them lightly to build up a textured effect. Once everything is fully dry, I'll go back in with colored pencils and add some shading on top. I'll also go over the petals with a white acrylic marker. You could also use a thin layer of matte acrylic paint or gesso if you want to soften the black outlines a bit and then build shadows back in with pencils. I'll try to experiment a little with blending the acrylic markers as well, but I have a feeling that the best solution for me here will be to bring in some gouache and use a brush to quickly shape these quite detailed petals. That way I can keep the flower mostly light and white while still defining the form. So in this case, the focus is really just on painting the shadows underneath the petals rather than fully coloring everything in. This third flower doesn't have as many black lines, so I can really enjoy working with watercolors here and create a softer and more transparent effect on the petals. Once the watercolor layer is dry, I can easily go back in with colored pencils and gently adjust the shading or blend areas where needed. I'll keep the tones very light on the tips so the petals stay soft and airy, while in the deeper folds and inner parts of the flower, I'll work with richer and darker purple tones to add depth. To finish this section, I also want to add a touch of metallic shine. The cover of this Colouring Frieze already has a beautiful golden metallic detail, so I thought it would be nice to echo that inside the artwork as well. I'll be adding a soft gold metallic watercolor to the tips of some petals and the edges of a few leaves. Not everywhere, just selectively, so it catches the light and gives a subtle glow to the composition. It's interesting because depending on the angle and how the light hits the page, the metallic areas can appear slightly darker or more reflective. So if your goal is to keep everything very bright, that's something to keep in mind. But personally, I really enjoy that shifting shine. When you tilt the page, it just adds something special. And that's it for now. Of course, I'll keep working on this piece. I think it will be really interesting to continue blending other colors across the remaining flowers and experimenting as I go. Since the design is so varied, it doesn't feel necessary to stick to just one approach. Working on this Colouring Frieze has been such a nice experience. It really feels like the perfect format for experimenting and trying out different mixed media techniques. It allows so much freedom to just play, switch approaches, and see what works in the moment. I'll definitely continue working on the other coloring books as well, and I'm especially looking forward to trying the paint by numbers one to see if that kind of relaxing process is something I enjoy. I hope this video gave you a few ideas or inspiration for your own creative projects, or just something fun to explore in your own way. Thank you so much for watching and spending this time with me. Every like, comment and share truly means a lot and really helps me keep creating content for this channel. And I'll see you very soon in the next video.